Right, let's now take a look at the very latest in the world of business, as the local exchange may benefit from a bubbly session today, with tensions over Ukraine easing a little and corporate news providing a further boost. Jimmy Moyaha, independent analyst, joins us now to talk through some of these latest moves. Jimmy, very good morning to you. Thank you for joining us. Give us a sense of how the markets have opened this morning and perhaps what are some of those elements driving the moves.
Good morning, Fawn. Good morning to the viewers. The markets opened in the green this morning, largely off the back of U.S. and Asia trade. We saw U.S. Treasury yields reach new highs we haven't seen since 2019 again. We saw Asian markets all in the green, and I suppose the overall expectation and the overall position at the moment from the market is a bit of caution around the anticipated inflation numbers coming out of the U.S. tomorrow. I mean, we've got business confidence numbers out today. We've got in South Africa, we've got manufacturing and mining numbers out tomorrow. But the key focus is going to be on those inflation numbers out of the U.S. because it's going to give guidance around the pace at which the U.S. is going to increase interest rates. And from there, we will likely see that cue filter through to the markets. We have seen some of it filter through to gold sentiment at the moment, as gold is used as an inflationary hedge. But we are expecting that we will continue to see that unfold in terms of the dollar and in terms of the dollar against the rand as we get those inflation numbers out. From the local side of things, the JSE top 40 is up about just over 0.75%. This is largely expected off the back of Tencent having traded up overnight. So Naspers and Prosus are both up on the local side. Mondi's up on the local side. Anglo is up as well. So overall, green market, the top 40 has reached new highs once again, and it is looking positive at the moment for us today.
Gold prices are close to 2-week highs amid the inflation worries. What's fueling those prices?
As I said, I mean, the inflationary pressure around that from a global perspective, I mean, gold has been seen as an inflationary hedge for the longest time now. And the pressure around the U.S. inflationary numbers, the fact that the ECB in Europe has taken a completely different stance to the U.S. on their inflation policy and on their interest rate decision-making, couple that with the tensions we're seeing out of the Ukraine ahead of those political tensions out of the Ukraine affecting oil prices and that sort of thing. So gold at the moment is largely being driven by overall risk sentiment and the inflationary fears that we're seeing. And we will see most likely a significant reaction from gold if there are any surprising inflationary numbers out tomorrow from the U.S.
And tomorrow's a big day. President Cyril Ramaphosa will deliver the State of the Nation address and expected perhaps to detail progress by the government in its plans to attract foreign investment. What will the president need to say tomorrow to appease the markets?
Well, I think there are a number of things that will be looked at in that respect. We know that we recently had a ratings outlook change to negative from Moody's on our South African banks, and a lot of that is something that the president will have to address, along with the finance minister having to address it when he delivers his budget speech as well. So the central focus will probably be around the state of SOEs, what the plan is to get SOEs, particularly Eskom, to have less power interruptions. Is the government going to issue a policy around alternative power producers at this stage? We are expecting that if we get any news on a basic income grant and how that's going to work from a policy perspective, that will definitely give rise to some interesting developments on the market side as well. But I think over and above all of that, how the government plans to address stagnating growth and sluggish growth, along with, which has been the most critical part here, the rising government debt. Now, some of these things will have to be addressed by the Minister of Finance where it comes to the budget speech in terms of giving guidelines on those numbers. But the State of the Nation tomorrow will largely center around those sorts of things from an economic standpoint, but also if we look at things like how the government plans to approach any potential new variants. Are we going to go back to lockdowns? Are we going to have curfews being reinstated in the future? Those sorts of things. I think if the president will more than likely brush over those quite quickly because the global situation is such that it looks as though we're returning to normal. But from an economic standpoint, what's really going to drive investors and investor confidence confidence is going to be around the state of the government debt, around the state of growth, the growth plans, and that will obviously be filtered through to how that correlates with how much budget is allocated to there from the finance ministry.
Absolutely. Some very important questions need to be answered there. And very lastly, looking at company news, BP's profit hit an 8-year high in 2021. The firm rebounded to an annual profit of over $12 billion after a large loss in 2020. How did that performance look like?
Well, I mean, if you remember in 2020, oil prices hit unprecedented lows, and we saw that affect Sasol locally. We saw that affect all oil producers. Shell also reported significant losses alongside BP as well. So this return to profit for 2021 was off the back of a very low base of 2020, and the sort of return to demand, the reduction in lockdown restrictions and travel restrictions, and the ability for these oil producers to come back into the fray. We've seen oil prices tap above $90 a barrel now, and that's what's also fueled a lot of it will fuel 2022 revenues as well, but it also has given them a lot of confidence going forward. I mean, BP has come out to also say that they're doing about a $4 billion share buyback to improve their position with their investors and to give shareholders some value back. They announced that their revenues were up some 49%, and they also did announce that they are well on track to reduce their carbon emissions. I think that the big focus for a lot of the oil companies has been to achieve a net zero as soon as possible. BP said that they'll probably be at 50% by 2030 and hopefully at net zero by 2050 in terms of carbon emissions. So overall, very good news from them from a numbers perspective, but also from their long-term growth plans and their long-term sustainability plans. They look to be one of the leaders in the reduction of carbon emissions from the big oil giants.
Very well. Thank you so much for that. Let's leave it there for now. Independent analyst Jimmy Moyaha giving us a breakdown of the latest in the world of business.